Good morning, or good afternoon, actually. It's 12:20 now. My name is James Morgan. I think Mike's actually done all the introductions. So we're talking about the future of event apps today. And I've got Felix from CrowdComms, and I've got Pedro from... In-Event, sorry. Okay, it's been a long morning. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to kick straight off. And one of the big questions in the industry right now is, do you prefer, or as a user at a show like this, do you prefer using a native app, an app you're going to download on your phone, and do you prefer using a web app, so something you can get a link to straight away? So from a delegate point of view or attendees point of view, what would they prefer? And from an organizer's point of view, what do you think they want to offer their delegates? So, Felix, I'm going to start with you. We actually did prepare for the session, so we're not just winging it.
I didn't. I've been in a yoga and surf retreat in Morocco. Just got back last night. I'm all zen at the moment. But no, I can have a go.
Okay, have a go.
Web apps versus native. So I think one of the things was we deliver both. And one of the challenges we found is actually Apple continually putting in different hurdles and the rejection process and the ever-changing goalposts for them. So we're finding with those clients you have to really submit that quite early. So it really changes your sort of timescale for delivery. Obviously with a progressive web app, obviously you can just pop it up instantly. And then what we find with our clients is that some will then, we do a lot of medical investigator meetings, so those guys don't want it in the App Store. They just want, give a URL, download it. It's on their phone, acts and works like the native to some degree. And yeah, we find that it's a difference. Obviously, with the native, you're going to get a superior user experience. But progressive web apps are catching up, and I think that once they've sort of, all the browsers have cracked the ability to deliver like the push notifications in, then it will be quite hard to sort of differentiate between the two. And also with progressive web apps, you can bolt in native SDKs, which are basically like different plugins that you can do quite easily now as well, as you could do with the native as well. So there's an argument for both.
Okay, and Pedro, from your point of view, if you're selling it for a branded kind of corporate conference, yeah, as opposed to say a consumer exhibition like Comic-Con, what are the differences there between the native and the and the kind of web-based apps?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the first thing that I see is that we get this a lot from our customers. Sometimes they are people that are, let's say, they have more experience in their life, and they do not know how to engage on the App Store. So the App Store itself, it's hard to get the feedback from Apple and you upload the content, and sometimes even to get the password right. It's something that people don't remember because now they have uppercase, lowercase, then you have to put special character, and all that's complicated for the end user. So sometimes the web app is something that you can do once, and then you're ready to use, so that's easier in that process. But also depends upon the retention strategy that you're going to have with your customer overall along the time. So we have some customers that they say, I'm signing up for this app because I want my customer to download it, and I'm going to have that for 3 years. So I really want to have a real estate in the phone of my customer. So they make the investment of developing the native app because they really want to have that on there, because this sometimes can be like multi-million-dollar contract for our customers. So they really want to have that piece of real estate in the cell phone of the user. Sometimes it's just one-time conference, so that's okay for download and then delete the mobile app. But if your retention strategy is to have the app long time, you should have a native app. That's our recommendation.
Okay. So Felix, you touched on web apps. Can you just explain to these guys out there what PWSs are? Because it may be something that they need to know about.
PWS, yeah, okay. Progressive web app, yeah?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So what do we mean by progressive then?
Progressive web app. A progressive web app basically is essentially, it's using things like JavaScript and HTML5. What you're doing is then has all the functionality and usability of a native app, and you can do things like add it to the home screen of your phone, so it acts and feels exactly like a normal app. It will actually download content to your device. So unlike a website, you don't need to be online for it. That piece is getting better with different sort of platforms like Ionic, which can then download all of that content straight to the phone, and then not quite there with the push notification element of it. So it basically looks and feels. It's very quick to build. Instantly, you can deploy it without Apple being involved with it as well. And so that's the easy way of summarising what the PWS is.
Okay, so let's move on to functionality, because I think that's quite important, what you can and can't do. And Pedro, I'd just like you to explain a process for these guys here. Let's say, for example, you've done your conference program. At the last minute, the speaker that's coming from Brazil, there's been a flight delay, they can't make it, and you've got to update your web app or your native app. What's the process behind that? I mean, what's going to happen to the update, or how can that be done?
Yeah. I think the most vendors today, so that was a process that in the past was done in a different way, so now it's pretty easy to do, I believe, in both platforms that we have. It's similar, so they have something called an API. And the API is something that's on the cloud. So the cloud has all the data, sometimes of your customers, what you have built on the CMS, which the CMS is the platform itself where you upload the data and everything else. And then that cloud is going to push the data to each device that we have here today. So that makes it really easy to update content, because if you change something on the cloud, the next time that you are online, that's going to synchronize and send this data to your device and get the new version. So that enables us to create really easy to use software, something that all of us can enjoy and use for business, and create something that's automatic for you to update. The only thing that you need to do is have a small piece of data, update on the CMS, and you're going to get the updated information soon on your mobile app.
Okay, and in terms of the future of event apps, so we got the update thing sorted out. What other kind of functions are we going to start seeing in the future with event apps, Pedro? Sorry, not you, Felix. I'll come to you in a minute. Sorry.
Picking on me.
He's really disappointed, isn't he? Pedro, you tell me what you think. What future functions are we looking at with either native or web-based?
Yeah, we believe very strongly in the future of networking and easy to matchmaking, the matchmaking process. So the ability for you to walk around and then you just get a notification. So this person may be interested in you because they work in a big corporation and you also do business with corporations. So you maybe should engage in some discussions right here. And then you can use that like near NFC, near field communication devices. We can be bracelets, which are really cheap these days, cents of $1. And then can also use other kind of hardware to connect all the pieces together based on the data they already have. So we have customers that are using data that they have on Salesforce or Marketo and other platforms to be more insightful and be able to say, oh, I'm going to connect this person with this other person because I have this data on my CRM with multiple years of data backwards. And so that's the whole insights. How do you get these droves of data and you create really meaningful connections on the day of the event right here, right now? Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of Internet of Things and connected devices, and will event apps play a role in that process in terms of an exhibition like this? So we may have badging systems connected. We may have functions on booths connected. Is there any way that the event app can be part of that interface in terms of IoT?
Yeah. So talking to like 5 or 10 customers today, the thing that I hear the most about them is I already use 5 systems, 10 systems. Usually everybody's using today 28 different systems in a traditional company. So the challenge is how to integrate everything in a way that's not madness. And the way to do that is to have an open platform between all the vendors, something that everyone can communicate. So the badging system works with the mobile app, works with the event floor plan, and everything else. So we are able to specialize and create the best mobile app and integrate with our partners. So in the end, we're going to create the very best experience for you that are attending the event. So that's the goal.
Actually, there's a very good example of that integration system. It's called Blender.io. They're just down there. And that's an integration platform where you can have lots of different elements or platforms that can all speak to each other. So that's something you might want to look at if you've got a whole bucket of stuff and you want to join it all up. But Felix, let's just go back to the functionality stuff, because I know you've got some comments on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, so we think one of the things we've got, and Pedro has mentioned it, there is a lot of data out there. And as all technology progresses, there is a lot of data that you've got to manage. And so I think it really is looking at then how tools like AI can really deliver a specific user journey. So being able to then automatically go, okay, these are the sessions that you're going to be they're interested in. Bookmark these, go to these. Exhibitors, these are the ones you should probably go and have a look at, and these are the people you can connect with. And getting in even deeper into that. So because, I mean, the event app's going to stick around. The phone is here. There isn't anything that's going to really, it's still early days, really. It's a really simple and easy device that everyone's got. And so creating that content to that individual is going to be really key. The various bits as well, I mean, Pedro, you mentioned sort of wearables and things, which are a great experience. I think I'm really super conscious about the environmental aspect of it all. So we do badging, so we're looking at how we can do 100% recyclable badges without wallets and all those pieces. RFID, that's got elements in there that are they recyclable? Do we need them? So looking at then how we can then still create all that content using AI tools, and things like AWS are now providing people like us with the ability for their AI plugins just to go straight into the app as well. So we should see it really expand quickly, I think. Yeah.
Okay. I've seen one of the questions up there about 5G, but I'm going to come to that in a minute, so I'm not ignoring your question now. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to talk a bit about pricing in the future. We see different pricing models for event apps. Who in this audience here, can you just put your hand up, actually buys event apps at the moment for your events? So quite a few of you, yeah. So obviously pricing is a major budgetary concern, and there are different pricing models out there. Can you just tell us, Felix, about pricing for event apps in the future? How do you think that's going to pan out? Because we've seen the buyer or a one-off, we've seen buyer enterprise thing that you talked about, Pedro. We've seen pay-per download pricing. How do you think it's all going to pan out?
Yeah, pricing. Pay-per download, so you mean pay-per, like the delegate would then pay to actually download the app?
Well, the organizer only pays the amount. There might be 200 at the event.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah. And would only pay for the amount of people who've downloaded the app. Okay, yeah. That model would be a bit problematic for tech providers, because they might necessarily be the ones that would actually put bums on seats, as it were. We actually ourselves provide a sort of full communications package that goes along with the app as well. And that's purely because we want to make sure that everyone's 90% got engagement on the app. I think pricing models, for ourselves, we do a pay-per attendee model and a per event model. It means that if you're running a small event, it's scalable. It correlates with the number of attendees you've got. So it doesn't mean there's always an event app for every event, as it were. And then when you get to larger events, that model then starts to not make any sense. And then you would just then pay a flat rate for that one event, regardless of the number of attendees that attended. I don't know that would change. Pedro, would you change it?
I think it's different. Like each one has a different conception of how they should use your event app. I see that we have different customers, and each one of them has a different interpretation. So, what I became a really big fan of is that once our company grew and we started to hire service from other companies, was how painful it was to understand the pricing of all the vendors out there. So I'm really now a big advocate of putting the price really easy for the customers to understand how much is your event app very quickly. If you have complex pricing, it's okay. If you are like a big customer or something, you should also understand the pricing, like get a specific quote or talk to a salesperson. But if you can put your pricing out there and people can understand your pricing very quickly, that's one process that can be improved a lot in the model. But it depends. Some people have charge per registration. We charge per registration. Some of them, they charge per one-time mobile app. That's the case. But what we should do is just understand the price really quickly so you don't lose a lot of time trying to wrap around. You should spend time trying the product like an event has. So if you go to our website, you can try the product for free. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to move on to 5G now because this is one of the areas that we prepped for before we came up here. There's a question there, how important is 5G going to be for event apps? And we did discuss 5G in our preparation. Not only did we discuss 5G, which is a mobile application, we also talked about static connectivity in terms of Wi-Fi 6, which is, you can buy routers for that now, and that technology is going to be rolled out over the next couple of years, which actually offers a whole new type of connectivity within venues. Obviously, if people are coming from foreign countries to a conference or a show, they may not want to be using mobile data packages. They will be relying on Wi-Fi. So both are important in terms of connectivity. But Felix, you had some, if you could answer the question on 5G, how important is that going to be in terms of apps in the future? Because I think it also links to the question in terms of streaming. Yeah?
Oh, yeah, got it. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I think, well 5G, and if you really want a brilliant technical explanation, I'm sure Gary down at Simply Wi-Fi he's got can give you more detail. But in essence, 5G is obviously very fast, but the crucial bit is a solid, sustainable connection. And I think that will gain massive improvements for particularly large events. We do some large events, and I think some of the larger events, the exhibitions, steer away from some of the things like streaming services and some of the interactive tools, because the experience is not great. Because currently, in a large venue, you'll have spotty Wi-Fi. In the massive venues, the cost of it is huge, and then you'll get it very spotty in terms of connectivity. And so they will just use it for bare bones. So some of our larger clients will just use it for their meetings, the appointment bookings, their hosted buyer meetings, and some information. I think it will be a game changer for those hybrid meetings, to be able to facilitate hybrid meetings with streaming as well. So yeah, that's.
So you could actually download the event app even though you're in a foreign country and experience the event through that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think when we then move on to things like 5G, you can then VR it. This is down the track. Yeah. We've now banned aeroplanes, right? No one's allowed on a plane, okay? And now we're VR, okay? Which environmentally good. From a connection perspective, doesn't feel that appealing, but it is an enabler for that.
Pedro, have you got any comments on the 5G functionality and how important that might be in the future?
I think that the process of understanding, of walking around, I saw a prototype. So we have a friend, we went to the accelerator program in California called Y Combinator. And then they have, it's 200 companies that go on an acceleration process every 6 months. And one of the colleagues showed me this 5G application with the event industry, which was basically, you go into a room, and the room it's on VR, and basically everybody is watching a specific session. And so you're walking around in the same space, some of the space like this. But when you walk around, it creates a three-dimensional experience in the back of the room, and you feel like you are in a session. But you can be in your room, in your house, anywhere that you want, but you feel like you're in the real event. And the only thing that you need to do is 5G and a mobile phone, compatible, of course. But then you can feel like you're in this real experience event. And that was crazy. Like, I tried the product, I was a little bit dozy at the phone, but then I got to know, and I tried like 2 or 3 times. It's really nice. The future is going to be really, really great in that sense.
And Felix, so you talked about spotty Wi-Fi. What's Wi-Fi 6 going to do solve that? For the event app I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's right. With Wi-Fi 6, again, I'm not an expert on the bits, but what I know is that Wi-Fi 6 will produce a more solid and stable connection from that Wi-Fi router with increased speed. So we will get, I think we'll get a piece of what 5G is about from that router as well. So lots of those larger events, when you've all been there, and I've talked to many delegates, they come up to me and go, it's not working, it's not working. And then you look at it, I'm connected to the Wi-Fi, and you're looking at it going, bloody hell, the app's not working. And then you look at it again and you go, well, and it's actually, a lot of it is the interference from so many other devices around as well, coupled with Wi-Fi access points that maybe they can only sustain so many connections, and then you need to then move to another one and pick another one up. So it's that piece that is the conundrum we need to fix, and Wi-Fi 6 will go some way to doing that. And then with 5G, we won't need any extra points at all.
Yep. No, I think Wi-Fi 6 is going to be a new development, and a lot of venues are going to have to play catch up on that. If you're from a venue and you're interested in Wi-Fi 6, I have written a double-page spread in Exhibition News in the next issue. So you can have a look at that and get a real technical breakdown on that. But let's move on to some of your amazing questions, because I think this top one, we've got 8 likes on that. Have I got a volunteer? Yeah, Felix, he was volunteering to do that one. Yeah. And then if Pedro, could you pick the next question, yeah?
Okay, so yeah, how do you ensure your event app supplier is reliable in terms of data security and GDPR? That's a great question. And we get sent numerous sort of pages and pages and pages of questions all around security and everything. One of the things you can do is look for somebody who is ISO 27001 accredited. That's Information Security Management accreditation. So if your supplier's got that, then that's a massive tick in the box, because that means that they will have gone through all of the large companies. Some of you might be from larger companies, some from smaller companies, but you can sort of rest assured that if somebody's ISO 27001, then they've been through all the hoops in terms of the information security management. It is incredibly, what's the word? I mean, nice. It's a little bit dull, and we are actually in the middle of it at the moment, and will be accredited on the 1st of January. But it's a lot of work. But what it means is, for us, when we get the security questionnaire come through, the first question says, are you ISO 27001 accredited? If yes, send us your certificate. If no, spend 3 weeks completing this document. So we got bored of 3 weeks completing this document. So that's one way to do it. I would say other way, if they're not ISO 27001, if they are very quick to be able to provide you with a information security document that they've done themselves, which does all the checks, then that's another start. But maybe you can go to the ISO 27001 and start to work out what criteria would apply to you in your event.
Thank you, Felix. Pedro, can you do the client loves the app, delegates don't use it. Any tips for increasing adoption and engagement levels?
Yeah, so...
Do you get that question a lot?
Yeah, we get this question a lot. So one thing that I read a lot of blogs, and I just recently saw one that was one of the most requested features from an event app. And what the attendees want to see is something that's meaningful for them. So things that we did with our customers, one thing that worked really well is allowing the QR code for accessing the event only to be on the event app. That was one of the top engagement features that we had specifically for our customers. But other things that I've seen is that the first one is really great matchmaking. So if you have really ability to do matchmaking really well in the mobile app, that's one way of really engaging the customer. The second thing is creating games. So if you're going to create a mission, a sweepstakes, something that is going to drive the customer to win something in the end. They're also going to drive adoption. And the fourth thing is your ability to engage that with the corporate level. So that's something that if you do, you're going to be able to get more content, and all the content is going to be allowed to your professional career. People will download the app also to get this information. So those are four things that we've seen successfully.
Okay, Felix, before we finish, I just want you to explain. You said something about a communication strategy around adoption.
Yes.
And I want you to give these guys, because we've only got like a minute left,
Okay.
give them your top 5 tips on that.
Okay, yeah, I mean, just going back to that, the things about engagement, just focus on what your meeting's trying to deliver and what is of value to the delegates. So don't just put stuff in there that you think's cool. I saw the thing, client loves it, delegates don't use it. Us as event suppliers sometimes get a little bit engrossed between you and I about what we think is right, and the delegates going, that's not what I want. So just use the tools that are relevant to them and then promote that. In the promotion, so you want to be having a clear, always give yourself at least a minimum of 2 weeks before launch, set up a number of mechanisms for marketing that out, okay, and let them know what is the benefit of using it. And for them, so pick an app that is easy to use and they're going to find easy to use, and then just focus on why they're going to be there. Then you've got to do things like housekeeping slides at the start. We'll provide all these documents, put them up there. When you're talking about the fire exit, if the guy on the stage is not engaged and doesn't tell them, the event app's great, use it now, then it will probably fall flat on its face. Because remember, when you're on the stage and people are out there, they're pretty good at following the orders. So make sure you've got that strategy there. If you're using live polling, Q&A, get those slides up at the start so people know that stuff's coming. And then display screens around, another great way for getting adoption. I've got to shut up now. Thanks, James.
Okay, last comment from you, Pedro.
Yeah, just to say that all these technologies, they are really great and everything, but in the end, all the experiences are run by people. So we create the experiences, we decide what's going to be on the app, on the VR or whatever. We are in control of this. So if we have great people creating great meetings, we're going to be successful no matter which technology we are using.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Pedro, and thank you very much, Felix. Please give him a hand or a round of applause. Thanks for attending the session.